Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to give you my review of a movie about a young man that comes from a poor family, ends up getting superpowers, and teams up with the head of a tech company. It's Beetle.
Yeah, no shit!
But before we get started, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like so that you can help me out with the algorithm so I can reach a bigger audience. Subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss any of my new content. Now let's get into it.
Well, it's about damn time!
In Beetle, we meet up with Jaime Reyes, played by Cobra Kai's Zolo Maridueña.
It's not lame-ass karate. It's Cobra Kai.
Returning from college to live with his impoverished family and being stuck looking for a job with his younger sister Milagra, played by Belissa Escobedo. This search introduces him to Bruna Marquezine Jenny and into the crosshairs of generic white corporate villain Victoria Cord, played by Susan Sarandon, and her cybernetically enhanced henchman Carapax, played by Raul Trujillo. In the midst of this, Jenny gives Jaime a cheeseburger box that contains the Scarab, an ancient alien relic that binds itself to Jaime and gives him a suit that's kind of a mix between Iron Man and Green Lantern. He can fly, he's bulletproof, he has an AI-like voice that's in his head that can control his suit for him, and he can create basically whatever weapon that his imagination and the budget allows for, like Green Lantern. But once the Scarab binds itself to him and changes his life forever, Jaime will have to embrace his destiny and become the superhero, Blue Beetle. Now, if you were listening to all of that thinking this sounds pretty formulaic and derivative, you'd be forgiven because it kind of is.
You've seen this before?
11 times, as a matter of fact.
The origin story beats are familiar, the plot relies on a ton of conveniences and contrivances to move from scene to scene, the climax devolves into a big CGI fight.
Big CGI fight coming up!
And I've already mentioned the similarities this has to Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Green Lantern. But I could even throw in Shazam for the whole family dynamic and Black Panther for a couple of reasons that I'll mention later. If this movie had come out in 2014, maybe in between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and offered something more light and family-friendly for DC back then, it probably would have been way more successful than it is now. And yet, I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's fine, but I don't see how that affects... What?
Yes, this movie's utilizing the tried and true origin story mixed with the coming-of-age story that superhero movies have been using since the very beginning. But it revels in it and does what it can to make this a fun superhero movie that doesn't really ask the audience for more than just going along with the ride. And I thought it worked for the most part, and the film's focus on character and heart really goes above and beyond to solidify that for me.
This was not half bad.
The cast is all great here too, aside from a couple people that I mentioned later, but I gotta talk about the lead. I always thought Zolo Maridueña was great as Miguel on Cobra Kai, and he's like the heart of that show. So I was excited when I heard that he landed the lead role here. But to be totally honest, I wasn't really sure if he could carry a movie. Zolo, my man, I owe you an apology because this is your movie. I originally wrote something in my script about him being the Mexican Peter Parker, and though there are plenty of similarities in their circumstances and their characterization, by the end, Jaime stakes his own claim as a worthy addition to the new DCU without the comparisons to Spider-Man.
So then you're Spider-Man.
No, I'm not Spider-Man at all.
It may just be because Maridueña oozes likability, but nearly everything about the character of Jaime Reyes worked for me.
I like this guy.
He's funny and charming without ever being too cocky, smart and quick on his feet without being a boring, perfect character and having it be distracting. And when the movie calls for it, he is able to bring so much raw, natural emotion into his performance that I was fully rooting for him by the end of the movie.
My family, that's what makes me strong.
And the scene where he transforms for the first time, even though they added some music to lighten it up a little bit, is still pretty dark and disturbing. And he totally sells the fear and confusion during that scene as he has no idea what's going on, just that he is in a lot of excruciating pain.
That's gotta hurt!
As for the rest of the characters, I wasn't the biggest fan of Belissa Escobedo's Milagro at the beginning. She was a little too obnoxious and little sister bratty for me, and I couldn't really connect with her. But once the stakes get higher and higher, her family gets in danger, her brother gets in danger, she's shown as much more of a layered character and can bring a lot of emotion when she needs to. The rest of Jaime's family is all great here, including his hilariously bloodthirsty Nana, played by Adriana Barraza.
Nana?
I advise we back away.
And his super supportive and heartfelt parents, played by Damien Alcazar and Elpidia Carrillo.
They don't get out much.
I'll admit that they don't get the most development and fleshing out in the script, but this is already a brisk 2-hour movie that's telling a whole-ass origin story, so I'm not sure if that would have all fit. For the supporting roles they had, Jaime's family serves that purpose well, and they sell the emotional beats so effectively that I definitely cried a couple of times in this movie.
Stop crying. Stop.
The standout in the supporting roles is something that I really didn't expect to like when I saw him in the trailers, but that's George Lopez as Jaime's eccentric conspiracist Uncle Rudy.
It's like Batman stuff.
Batman's a fascist.
From his introduction, his balance of over-the-top paranoia, his distrust of authority, and his ignorance to how attention-drawing he is, combined with his chemistry of the rest of the family, his soft spot for Jaime, and his character arc coming around to him being a full badass by the end, Uncle Rudy ended up being one of my favorite characters in this film.
Trust me, I'm as shocked as you.
Bruna Marquezine was fine as Jenny, but her character was never super engaging to me, and even though she always had something to do, she didn't really seem all that necessary in the film aside from being a love interest to Jaime.
Why are you here?
Raul Trujillo's Carapax, though being a strong presence of hired muscle and a scary physical threat that Jaime has to overcome, is ultimately barely a character, and even when the movie does try to give him some more development and backstory and elevate him past just another generic henchman, it's too little too late in my opinion and doesn't really work.
Too late. You're too late.
Harvey Guillen, Perito from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish,
Oh, I've been called all kinds of things. Rat face, butt nugget, for brains, you know, that sort of thing.
is also here, but he could have either been taken out completely or replaced with any other actor, and it wouldn't have changed that part at all. And lastly in the cast, there's Susan Sarandon.
Scarab chose you, but it belongs to me.
What a waste. Her character is so generically evil, from the cliche way she bosses around or stereotypes the help, to her casual racism that the movie doesn't really have the balls to completely dive into.
Oh, please. They didn't sneak into this country to be your friends.
Along with her cliched evil plan that's been done 1,000 times over in other superhero movies.
It's an army of
generic suits of CGI armor.
The only difference is that where the rest of this movie understands that it's kind of generic and formulaic and does what it can to elevate that and have a lot of fun, Sarandon never really does that with her performance, and I'm not sure if it's the writing, the direction, or her herself, but I never actually bought her as a threat. More like a Karen that I just wanted to punch in the throat. That, I guess, can bring me back to the story. Yes, it hits those generic superhero origin story beats. The cold open introducing us to the villain, the intro to our downtrodden character and his unfortunate circumstances, the meeting of the love interest, the getting and testing his powers, the chase scenes, the all is lost moment.
The all is lost moment.
You get the idea. But not only is this a refreshingly small-scale superhero film that isn't about ending the world or the multiverse for once, but there is so much earnest effort and heart from everyone involved, from the cast to the writing to the production designers to Angel Manuel Soto's direction, and you can feel it, especially compared to 90% of the slog that Hollywood puts out nowadays that feel like it had no effort put into it whatsoever. That makes it pretty easy to dismiss some criticisms here, like the formulaic and derivative nature of it, the abundance of plot convenience and contrivance, like someone trying to escape and someone else pulling up in a car at the exact perfect moment before they get killed kind of convenience.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
The weak villain that really isn't written well and has a very cliched plan, and a few on-the-nose lines and speeches that felt very Black Panther inspired, while not really hitting as hard as the commentary did in that movie. But outside of that, this movie delivers a fun, small-scale, satisfying origin story with a great lead and strong supporting cast, an effectively used budget that makes the most out of its setting and visual effects, an exciting musical score by Ari Aster's go-to, Bobby Krullick, that perfectly accents every scene, and an emotional core that hits really hard and elevates this film from a passable, decent film to one of the better superhero movies I've seen over the past couple of years, even with the familiar parts.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
And that's my review of Blue Beetle. If you like this video, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss my new reviews. While you're at it, you can also find the links to my socials in the description below. Comment and leave a thought. Let me know what you thought of this video, or if you saw the movie and what you thought of that. And lastly, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of The Last Voyage of the Demeter, or over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next week for my review of Gran Turismo.